Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to Never Alone, Never Again, the podcast brought to you from Never Alone Recovery. I'm Johnny, as always, joined by Krista, the sober Barbie. And today we have our friend Britt Bernard, who we've talked to a few different times from the Sober Girls group chat. And but today we have a very special guest, and this is going to be a very special podcast. We have Britt and her mom, Patti. Britt, you are coming up on 8 years sober, and Patti, you have 22 years sober. So
Yes, sir.
this is amazing. We have the mother-daughter combo, and we're gonna hear all sorts of fun stories about Britt. And Patty's gonna tell us all the dirt. But more than anything, today we're gonna hear, Patty, you're gonna tell some of your story, and then Britt, you're gonna give us your feelings of how it was, growing up with a mom who was an alcoholic addict, and then simultaneously, Britt, you're going to tell us your story, and then Patty, you're going to tell us your feelings. This is going to be awesome because, and that awesome might be a wrong word, but what we talk a lot about is generational curses, and we're going to talk about that. So let's get this started. Let's get this party started. Patty.
Yes.
Tell us your story. Tell us, experience, strength, and hope. What it was like, what happened, what it's like now.
Hi. So I'm one of 6 children. I'm the oldest female. I have an older brother, and I hear so many people tell stories about I didn't fit in, and I really can't say any of those things. I really drank because I just liked partying. I liked the atmosphere. I liked getting dressed up, going out to bars, and I like to say clubs, but I never usually made it to a club.
She stayed in the Northeast Philly trash bars.
Corner bar. We're going for a couple beers and then we're going to head downtown. Well, I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever made it down there.
It's funny. The same thing happened to me. So,
yeah. I saved a lot of money doing that too, by the way. I would come home sometimes with more money than I left with. I don't know how that happened.
I did too.
Lighters, all types of stuff.
Probably because we're women, right?
Yeah, that never ever happened to me.
Well, it's funny. I would drink in some of the same bars that she would drink at when she was drinking. Yeah. And some of the people she grew up with would be in the bar and they would literally buy me Ubers, buy me beers, take me places, so guys she used to drink with would be like, "Oh, you're Patty's daughter. Let's buy around." I'd be like, "This is great."
Yeah. So that same corner bar that she's speaking of, at some point we were I remember having a 50th surprise party for my mom. And I never understood why. I drank a lot with my siblings. We would go to the keg parties in the woods. And for some reason, I was always the one throwing up, going home, not remembering where I was. And my mom would be like, "Where were you guys?" And every single time, all my siblings said, "I didn't see her all night. I don't know where she was." And, in my mind, I was like, I was really bad at quarters. They picked on me. I never looked at maybe there's an issue with my drinking, And looking back now, I see that was the issue. It had nothing to do with losing at quarters. Actually, I'm really good at quarters. Yeah, so this corner bar, we're having my mom's 50th birthday party at a hall. Everybody decides we're going back to the bar after. And I was literally falling off the bar stool. And at this point in my life, I'm probably in my late 20s, early 30s. And a friend says, "I have something that will help you. Let's go to the ladies' room." So we go to the ladies' room, and anybody that knows me knows I am fanatical about cleanliness, right? So she takes me in the bathroom, and meanwhile, I'm shit-faced, and she lays out this white stuff on the toilet. And she gave me whatever. And, I did it. I went back out to the bar, took a drink of my beer, got a nasty taste in my mouth, ran back to the bathroom and threw up, came back and said, can I have more? What was that? Can I have more? And, from that night on, I don't think I ever drank again without cocaine, powder cocaine. And, so that tells you a little bit about, who I am really, but who I become when I put stuff in my body. Like I just went against everything I believe in. I have 3 children at home I sent my husband and the kids home so that I could go to the bar after this party and celebrate. My mom, who wasn't even there, like she had gone home too. And, so that's kind of, the way that things went. I hid this from my police officer husband for a very long time. And, I spent every nickel that we had, went into a ton of debt. I would write out back then in the ancient times, I wrote checks and I would put them in the mail. And because I handled all the money, I would put them in the mail. I would go home and literally panic, like, how am I going to do what I need to do? And I would run to the Mac machine and pull out all the money. So everything bounced, nothing got paid. So I really got us in I did a lot of damage that way, and stayed out all night, many nights, because he would work like 11 to 7 at night till the morning. So as long as I was home before like 8 o'clock, I was fine. I would sneak into bed. He had no idea, until he found out, right? So one night he comes home and he looks in my purse for some dental floss. I'm so slick. So I hid my stash in the dental floss container. And he went to get dental floss and there was no dental floss. And he shakes it. There was a little bullet thing in there. A friend of mine gave me. And needless to say, I don't know how he did this, but he allowed me to sleep through that night and woke me in the morning when him and my dad were downstairs. So there was kind of like an intervention. And I really, really what devastated me was walking down the steps and seeing the look on my father's face. My father was a man that I respected more than anything, more than anyone. And my husband apparently had filled him in on just some things that I had done. Not everything, thank God. And the look of disappointment and disgust on my dad's face, like really ripped into my heart. And at that point, I felt kind of like free. I felt like the secret's out. And I said to my husband, I'm willing to do whatever I need to do. To turn my life around and do whatever I need to do. And he wound up getting on the phone with his EAP, and I went away for 30 days. And I'm not sure if Britt remembers when we went to the airport. And
I do.
It was like the most traumatic thing ever, because him and the kids dropped me off at the airport, and the kids are crying. I'm hysterical, and I couldn't even turn around and look at them. I had to just keep walking. And, I get on this airplane and go to this place, and I had no idea what recovery was. I didn't even know what an alcoholic was. I just knew it was somebody that drank a lot. Didn't know I had to stop drinking. I knew I had to stop doing all them other things like pills and, cocaine and all of that. And, I flew down there. I didn't look back at the kids, but I felt horrible. I felt like really just dirt, and I remember being on the plane. I was curled up in a ball, and I'm thinking, like, how did I even wind up here? Like, really, it just started as a party. I never wanted to hurt anybody. I didn't want to spend all the money. I didn't want to do things that I shouldn't do. I didn't want a DUI that I got, years back. And I just wanted to have fun, and I dropped out of college because of drinking, because drinking was more important. I had the opportunity to either stop drinking and stay in school, or, drop out. And it just seemed logical to me to not go to school. Why would I pay money for an education when I know that I can't make it to class? Like, just didn't make sense. So I went to this treatment facility. They told me all the things that you hear in recovery, 90 and 90, get a sponsor, do all these things. And I was really lost. Like, I had no idea what they were talking about. you know, in the very, very beginning, I always say my counselor reminded me of Wesley Snipes. He was like this 7 foot tall black man, bald black man. And he wore these sunglasses.
He had to throw bald in there just for you, John.
Well, he's scared the living daylights out of me, this man. And, you know, whenever we had groups, I would always really tend to look at the differences between me and whoever was speaking. You know, some of these people were in treatment for their 15th, 20th time. I'd never been in treatment before. I'm like, I don't even belong here. Like, I was really talking myself out of being there and being an alcoholic and drug addict. And I wound up staying. I don't, you know, it just worked out. I stayed, and, you know, Kevin and the girls met me down there. We spent a couple days at my sister's house, came back home. And I wound up in an AA meeting the next morning after we got home. And really what happened was I woke up to a text message that morning. That's, a good friend of mine that I used to drink with actually went out the night before for a 6-pack and never made it home. He hit a tree and died. And that was Ricky.
Yeah, I remember.
And, you know, that I don't know that I was going to go to a meeting prior to that text message, but when I saw that text message, something told me to get to a meeting. And I did. And it was a God, as I understand him, meeting. I still remember the man that was chairing the meeting. I thought he was like the president of AA. He was like the man. And like all these things, my mind was so crazy. And what I remember the most, though, about that first meeting was the love that I felt from everyone. And I'm like, these people like want me to come back. Like, I don't really understand what's happening. And I just started doing what these people were telling me. Before that, I was always very defiant. So it was strange looking back now that I was willing to listen to complete strangers, you know. But I was, and excuse me. And, you know, a day turned into a week turned into a month. I started making coffee, just doing these things that, you know, and these women that surrounded me just loved on me, physically took me to the business meeting to make sure I got my hand up to get on the calendar. And I'm like, how am I ever going to sit in front of people and tell them what I did? I can't do that. It's just impossible. I can't. I said, I'm going to have to get home and write my story out. My girlfriend was like, no, Pat, that's not how this goes, you know? So when I tell you I really was clueless, not dumb, just clueless. I had no idea what was happening. And I look back now and I'm grateful that I was clueless because it really kept me coming back. And, you know, they told me to pray and I'm like, I don't need to pray. I don't need God. I was raised Catholic and there's just a lot of things that had happened that turned me off to the church. And I was like, I don't need to do that. But eventually the pain got great enough that I started doing that as well. You know, you hear them say pain is a great motivator. And really that is what happened for me. I started going on retreats. I went to Founders Day when I had 90 days sober. That was so life-changing yeah, absolutely. And I really had no idea what I was going to. I just knew I was going to hang out with sober people and for the weekend. And it was absolutely life-changing. It taught me so much about in 3 short days about the history of Alcoholics Anonymous and just so many different things and met amazing people from all over the country there. And I wound up, you know, I got a sponsor that just was also amazing. This little like 4'8", her name was Peggy, the best thing ever. And I remember like my husband, when I first got sober, he was really annoyed that I was out more sober than I was when I was drinking. And he told my sponsor, he was like, I don't understand. I don't like this. I don't want her going here all the time. And she says, you know what? Now, meanwhile, my husband's 6'3", she's 4'8", whatever. And she says, I want you to go to Al-Anon. And he was like, what's that? So she explained it to him and he wound up going. I couldn't believe that he listened to her. And he said to her afterwards, he called her and he's like, you know, Peg, that's really not for me. I didn't really, you know, I didn't relate or whatever. And she's like, well, why not? And he's like, well, I don't really know. It's just not my thing. And she's like, I want you to go back and let me know why you don't like it. And he wound up getting involved in that. Like Brittany had said, she went to Alateen. So it became this whole family thing.
I was forced to go to
Were
Alateen.
you?
Yes.
Wow. I thought it was a way of free counseling for my children because I knew.
I mean, I liked it eventually, but the first time I was like, where am I going? You want me to do what? Absolutely not.
A huge blessing in my recovery was, I forget which daughter. I think it might have been Brianna, or was it you? The three of us.
When we spoke, it was me.
It was Brittany, myself, and my husband all spoke at Alateen anniversary.
Yeah.
So him for Al-Anon, me for AA, and her for Alateen. And, just like really walking, they say you walk into, it takes you a long time to walk out of the woods that, and, just doing the things and there's so much that I did. And, especially the things, looking back, I think that the things that I really didn't want to do really benefited me the most. Like I fought prayer. Prayer is huge in my life now. I remember my girlfriend, because I said to my friend Cherie, who was really helping me at the time, I said, Cherie, I don't wake up and think of praying. Like it just don't work. She's like, here. And she gave me like a stack of prayer cards. And she's like, here, put them in your car, put them on your refrigerator, put them next to the bed, put them in your shoes, put them here, put them. And I mean, I literally had to do that in the beginning because I just didn't think about praying. And eventually it just became part of my routine, right? And I can remember this one time pulling into a gas station after an AA meeting. And I went to back then I still smoked cigarettes. I've since quit smoking as well. But I pull in and this kid pulls up on a bicycle asking me if I want to buy any perks, right? And I'm like, I always had to go hunting for perks when I was getting high, right? And at the same time, a guy I knew called Biker Phil from AA was knocking on the passenger window. It was almost like simultaneous, right? And I remember calling that friend Cherie, and I'm like, you'll never believe what happened to me in this gas station. And she's like, Pat, she's like, do you see that what God did for you? And I'm like, no, I don't, like, I wasn't making the connection. I needed people to show me. And she's like, well, did you pray this morning? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, that your prayers were answered because he always provides an out, and he provided outs when I was doing what I was doing. I just went the other way, and, so, so many different things happened. I wound up doing a lot of things. Like I said, I wound up speaking one time, and I was just telling somebody the story at Greetersburg prison. I'm not sure if you ever heard of it. It's like a high maximum security men's facility. And the only reason I said yes to go is because my sponsor had done it. The 4'8" woman, older woman that I very much look up to. And I wound up doing that. And that was another life-changing experience, so there's just been so many different things that have happened.
You've been sober since your very first meeting?
I have.
And that's so awesome because I mean I know Krista's been sober since her first meeting. I've been sober since my first meeting.
So have I.
And Britt's been sober.
It's not the norm though.
It's
Look
not.
at our little club we got.
It's not the norm. And so hearing your story, it's like listening to my own story. It really is, and Krista, I know Krista's story. She's kind of, we're all kind of, I mean, we're all in the same boat, and we've all used the same solutions, right? This is the long and short. Then when we wanted to get sober, we all used the same solution. But you brought up Founders Day, and Founders Day is the culmination in history of all the miracles that needed to take place for us to be here talking right now. And there's 1,000 of them. I won't even list them all. But we then look for the miracles in our own lives. And had your friend not gone missing, had you not gotten that text, would you have gone to that meeting? Would you have felt the same at that meeting? Would you be sober today? And we've all got the little burning bushes that occurred, and Patti, that story's so
If
good.
your husband didn't need dental floss.
Yeah.
Right? I thought I was so genius.
What if he hadn't eaten corn on the cob in February of 2022? He needed the dental floss.
2004.
2004. You meant what I knew.
I know what you meant.
You meant what I know?
But I relate so much to even the first time of the white line. Like it was to make me not be so like throwing up and just crazy drunk. They're like, just try this. And I did out of a girl's fingernail. And but now I look back, I'm like, that's so, but I was so clueless too. And it's almost like my teenage stepdaughter's applying for her first job. And it's like, I'm like, these places are going to want to hire you because you're not like, already like, has bad habits and like,
Yeah.
you're fresh meat. So we had like a fresh mind to get into and absorb all the stuff AA had to offer. Oh my gosh, it's so relatable.
Okay, so Patti, thank you for sharing your story with us. Britt, you were 12 when Patti stopped drinking, and you bore witness to a lot of it. What were your feelings? And I know they made you go to Alateen and stuff like that, but you actually got into it and took part in it.
I did.
So what were your feelings about Mom while she was out running around and hiding cocaine and dental floss?
So I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't fully understand like what was happening. I knew that she was like acting different. I knew that we were like going to shady places. Like she had these friends that we would go meet down in Port Richmond and Philly, and we would go in their house and they would pass a blanket around and there would be like pills in the blanket. So like I knew, you know what I'm saying? Like I knew the blanket was like making noise and that's like not normal, but I didn't fully grasp like what was happening.
I don't even remember that.
I do. I also remember one time,
That's so bad.
New Year's Eve, we parked outside of someone's house. I don't know where we were, somewhere Kensington, Port Richmond, somewhere down there. And me, Brianna, and someone else's kid were in the back seat of the car, and you were like, I'm gonna run in here real quick. Disappeared for God, I don't even know how long. Came back like nothing happened. But like there were things like that, right? Like I remember one time. Do you remember this story? You probably do. So we live in Philly, obviously, like in a row home. We're in the house that I grew up in right now, and I had some best friends on my street, right? So I went to Catholic school with all my friends, and my best friend from my childhood, Kelly. We get home from school one day and she calls me on the landline and she's like, "Did you see your mom's car with the cops?" And I'm like, "What?" So she got pulled over like down the street. She actually didn't get pulled over. What she did was she used her money for drugs or whatever, or someone burnt her for drugs or whatever. They drove up to the Northeast so that they weren't in the drug areas in North Philly. Drove up to the Northeast, parked the car. Didn't you punch Jen in the face or Jen punched you in the face?
She did it. She did it to herself.
Okay, her friend punched herself in the face. And then they called 911 and said they got robbed up in the Northeast. Well, my dad's a police officer. So like this whole story, that was like the beginning of the end, kind of like it kind of started to unravel around that time. But like I knew crazy things were happening. You know what I'm saying? And like I didn't really know how to put all the pieces together. I remember one time like going in the center console of the car down the shore and pulling out a big bag of weed and being like, I knew it was weed, but like I didn't know why my mom had weed. She didn't really even smoke weed. So like things like that would happen and I just would, I didn't really know what to do. I remember I did go to your sister. Is Wendy younger than? Yeah, Wendy's younger. So I went to my Aunt Wendy and I was like, my mom's losing a lot of weight. I found drugs in her car. Like, I don't know what's happening. And so like slowly but surely, like I remember like things like that happening. And eventually it led to us going to the airport and watching her walk away. And I didn't really fully understand like that she was going to rehab. I didn't know that she was coming back. Like I didn't understand any of that. And then, you know, being home with my dad and it was just a crazy time. You know what I mean? And I'm the oldest of 3. So like a lot of times I was taking care of the younger 2 while she was like sick or out or whatever she was doing. And then she got sober and I was taking care of them more because she went to the 10 a.m. meeting. Then she went to the noon. Then she went to the 6. Then she stayed for the 8. And sometimes she stayed for the 10. Like she was at a meeting all day long. So like, even after she got sober, I'm like, hey, hello, why am I taking care of the kids? What's going on here? It wasn't until I got sober that I understood like she had to be in meetings around the clock so that she didn't go put cocaine up her nose, you know? But I didn't understand that at 12. It was all very like confusing and, you know, there was just a lot. Like you were talking earlier about like generational trauma and things like that. Like there's generational trauma on both sides, you know? It's funny that we're doing this now because my dad has a lot of generational trauma that he has never really talked about or wanted to like be open about. And like, I've always been very careful to be respectful of that. But recently he like has started to work on his own trauma and be open and like honest about things. And, you know, his dad was an abusive alcoholic and he adopted some of those tendencies. Now he didn't drink, but he had a temper and like things would go through the wall or like, you know, just she was a drug addict and it was just a crazy time to grow up, you know? And it's just crazy looking back and like seeing how like God has had a hand in the healing of our family since her getting sober. You know what I mean? Like her getting sober led to me getting sober. Me getting sober led to like, instead of one person nagging my dad about his trauma, like now we're both nagging him about his trauma. And like now he's working on his shit, you know? And my sisters too, like they've both been to therapy for things. And it's just like, I just feel like, you know, all of those bad things, all of the dysfunction, like it all served a purpose, you know? And I didn't see it then, but I see it now, you know? So I had mixed feelings at the time, but now I'm grateful for it, you know?
And understandably so, and when we have so much in common, because my mother was she went to a lot of treatment centers, and I did Alateen, and I didn't know I was not. Yeah. If you asked me if you know a few years ago and said, "Hey, how was your childhood?" It was great. I played football, baseball, basketball. I didn't care about anything in the world. I was gone until the street lights came on, and didn't think about anything, and just
right.
And then all of a sudden mom's going away and I didn't know why. And so it was, it's interesting. And then all of a sudden I was a teenager and I'm, driving my siblings to Alateen and it was a far drive. And we get there and I said, hold up. And I remember going in and I went into Alateen so stoned. It was ridiculous. But neither here nor there. The generational, curses. We talk about this a lot,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily the curses. It's not just the generational, because we live different lives and, it's the solutions. It's the generational solutions that we find that we see our parents do, and then we go and do them, even though we say, and I'm sure, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Brittany, but I'm sure you said, I'm not going to be anything like Patti. No way.
In my mind, when I was in my addiction, I would tell myself that if I wasn't doing coke, that I was nothing like her. Like the reality is, I just replaced it with a different substance. Instead of coke, it was Adderall, but it did the same thing. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I said, I'm not going to be like her. And I turned out
we make these moral and philosophical convictions that we break, and we make these rules, right? And we use our parents for that, because I'm not going to be anything like my parents. As long as I don't smoke it and I just snort it, I'm fine. That was the way that it worked for me too. So, and and we see people around us. As long as I'm not doing that, I'm good. And then we go do that anyway. And and we, if just, making rules for ourselves and having philosophical, morals was enough, we wouldn't be here right now, but, it wasn't enough. So, okay. So, during all of this, we're going to be showing pictures, because we have some pictures of Patti from when she was younger. So during Patti's share, she's going to be sharing, there's going to be pictures popping up and stuff during this podcast. But there's one picture that we're going to talk about right now, before we get into Britt's story. And it's the St. Patrick's Day story. And you did a really good kind of side by side. And I'm sure that it's up right now over my face. So that's good. As many times as we can cover me up, please do. But let's talk about this St. Patrick's Day picture and what you did here.
Yeah, so it's a picture of me. Both pictures are taken on the same exact day. One is in the morning when I got ready to go out on the Shamrock Shuttle, which is a thing in Northeast Philly that it's like a rite of passage. You know what I'm saying? And I got up, I got ready. I probably looked similar to how I look now, with my hair done, my makeup done. I was just wearing orange and green. And the other picture is in the bathroom of my neighborhood bar at 3 a.m. the same day, after drinking probably 12 hours, other substances involved. And I found those recently. And I always knew that I had pictures from that St. Patty's Day. And I oftentimes use for recovery comparison, then and now. I'll use pictures from that day, but I've never went back and looked at the pictures from earlier that day until this year for some reason. I don't know if they popped up on my memories on Facebook or whatever, but I was like, this is addiction, because there are people, my mom kind of touched on it, but in my head, when I got sober, or before I got sober, my idea of an alcoholic was the homeless man under the bridge with the brown paper bag with ratty clothes, no place to live. I lived in Northeast Philadelphia in my parents' house. I was well taken care of. I had a job. I was able to keep up appearances for the most part, unless you found me in the Sheffield Tavern on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night, or maybe a Sunday at 3 a.m. Because if you found me there during that time, you know what I'm saying? It was a totally different human being. And it was almost like a double life. And that's kind of why I posted that this year, because a lot of people do that. They lead this double life, or they say that they're a functioning alcoholic, which is what I called myself for a long time. But was I functioning? I don't, that picture, to me doesn't look like I was functioning pretty well, so I just thought it was interesting.
A lot of people post the before and after pictures.
I did that right before my arrest. It was literally 4 hours before my arrest. I found this was 2 years ago. I did this side by side. It was a slideshow, and I looked well put together. I'm holding my mom's pup. My hair was done, and literally 4 hours later, I'm in a mugshot.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was the same. I was very well taken care of, and I didn't think people like us were alcoholics. I didn't know sober either, so I didn't.
I grew up in a normal, John, you kind of said you didn't touch on, or you didn't really. If you would have asked a couple years ago, if you had a normal childhood, you would have said yes, and same, because there was dysfunction in my childhood for sure. But I never wanted or needed anything. All my needs were met, and then some. I went on vacations, and you know, all the things that like of a good childhood, but like behind closed doors, things were a little crazy sometimes.
And
you
as we
know?
do this work and the 12 steps and the healing, it's all like coming to surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a few words from our sponsor, Never Alone Recovery.
Never Alone Recovery is a resource center for anything addiction or mental health. We are a toll-free number. Feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 855-831-9996. This is available for someone who's suffering, also parents of those who are suffering, colleagues, whoever. Feel free to call at any time. Krista, what else do we have?
We host 5 free Zoom meetings a week, recovery meetings. We host a recovery TikTok live every morning, and you can find us on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and all of it will be in our description.
Yeah.
A lot of people post the before and after pictures. Like,
People like a good before and after.
Here's Krista has a mugshot from 2015, and then she'll post a picture now and be like, "Whoa, look at the change!" But then seeing the change from morning
In one day.
until
Yeah.
night, I just thank God I've been sober a long time, and that they didn't have Facebook back then, so I ain't got no Facebook.
I think it was the year Facebook came
Patty's
out.
with me.
It was the year Facebook came out. Was the year you got
I always say that. I'm glad that I didn't have a cell phone. Nobody was tracking me. I got away with so much for that reason, because I didn't have a cell phone for a long time.
I had a little bit of both. Like, there's not a whole lot of photographic evidence of, but there is some, you know, and I go back and forth between being grateful and not grateful, because it is good to look back. Like, there's this one video on my phone that I keep. It's a Snapchat memory from, I think, like a week before I got sober. And it's I'm in a car, I'm driving, it's like 5 a.m. and the video is in slow motion, and I'm talking about how I shouldn't be driving my car. And I keep it on my phone as a reminder, like, this is where alcohol takes you. Because what the hell? First of all, you look like a freak at Wawa at 6 a.m. with like I looked like I came from the club. You know what I'm saying? And you're driving a car. Like, what do you do? What were you doing? You know, but like, that's the reality of addiction. It takes us to places that we would never today, you know, and thank God for that.
Then, I mean, that's the addiction of powerlessness. You know, we get dressed up, right, and we want to look good, and we're to the nines, and then we get home. You know, what is it? We're a 10 at 2, or no, we're a 2 at 10 and a 10 at 2, something like that. I don't know.
Something like that.
We thought we looked good. Like, there's a lot where I thought I was like looking good. I remember putting my makeup on, having to lean on the wall because I was so. And I'm trying to do my eyeliner, and
you know, my
good.
grandmother was got sober in the late 70s, early 80s, and my grandfather was a politician, and they would go to all these big events, and she would talk frequently about being dressed to the nines and then coming home, you know, battered and beat up and bruises, and you know, clothes half off, and you know, everything else just and that was, and that's not how we intended on coming home, you know. Now in recovery we come home, you know, like we left, you know, maybe maybe a little less hair, whatever, irrelevant. But it's you know, that's the difference. So now I want to get in. So thank you for talking about the St. Patrick's Day picture. Now I want to hear your story and hear Patty's thoughts about how she felt during yours, especially Patti. You were in recovery when Britt went through hers.
Yeah. I probably started drinking when I was like, I don't know, 14 or something. And I was always kind of afraid, right? Because I had seen what I saw with my mom. And so I was always kind of afraid of certain things. Like, so my mom has a younger sister who is my age. I'm actually 6 months older than her. And so her and I were raised kind of like siblings. And so we did everything together from a very young age. And naturally, when we got to be teenagers, we hung out a lot on the weekends. And she was always like a little bit more adventurous than I was with certain things. Like she smoked weed before I did, you know what I mean? And, um, but we drank together. And I mean, from the very first time I drank alcohol, there were three scenarios for me. I was either like fun, life of the party, like standing on the bar and dancing. I was fighting somebody or I was crying. There was like no in between. You know what I mean? It was one of the three and like sometimes a combination. It was not a good look. And a lot of the times her and I would fist fight because we would get loaded together and like I would call my mom crying. I mean, one time I was like threw her over a railing, a whole just a mess from the very beginning. And it's funny, like when I first got sober, if you would have asked me the first time I did drugs, I would have told you it was, you know, way later than it actually was. It wasn't until I think I had like 2 years sober and my fiance and I had people over our house and we were watching UFC and we were all sober people. And we're talking about the first time we did drugs and someone brought up triple C's. I don't know if you know what triple C's, core seed and cough and cold.
Or to seated, John.
Yeah.
That was Kindle.
Yeah. So someone brought them up and I was like, holy shit. The first time I ever got high was core seed and cough and cold when I was like 13 or 14 years old with Sam. It was a cough medicine and you would go to Rite Aid or CVS or wherever. You would buy a box and you would split a box with your friends. So like you would eat one whole side and they would eat one whole side and you would like trip balls. It was crazy. And me and Sam would do that every weekend. Literally, we would go to her mom's house because my grandfather, her dad, my mom's dad, was like very strict. But my aunt's mom was not so strict, so we could get away with some shit. So we would go to her house.
Patti, are you just hearing about this for the first time? Is this
Probably.
I don't know nothing about this cough syrup. I've learned a lot about getting high and ways to get high from Brittany.
We did it. So I know what you're talking about.
Look, I see.
Yeah, it was a crazy thing. I mean, the Rite Aids around here eventually put like a restriction on it where you had to have an ID to buy it.
Took it off the shelf for a little bit too.
I think they might have, yeah.
We never paid for it. We would take it out of the box.
Well, we did that sometimes too, but
just a good alcoholic.
But when they put an ID over it, like we had to like get somebody to buy it or steal it or do whatever. But yeah, that was the first time I ever got high. But had you asked me when I got sober, my answer would have been completely different. So it's just so funny to me, like how like our brains kind of protect ourselves from our addiction and like block things out, you know, and kind of going back to the trauma, like, yeah. But yeah, so you know, I drank up until my, you know, high school kind of ramped up a little bit. By senior year of high school, I was driving to school drunk, cutting class to go to the keg in the woods down the street from my house, all kinds of stuff. I remember one time going to a Phillies game with my girlfriends and we went and tailgated and I was the DD and I swore up and down that I was not going to drink. Like I was driving my car. I had the Cougar at the time. My car. So a neighbor like gifted her a car when she got sober and she passed it down to me when I turned 17 or 16 or whatever it was. And so I drove the car down to the Philly stadium and I drove all my friends and we started in the car because everyone was afraid to get out because we were afraid to get an underage. And eventually, like my friends got a little drunk. They decided to get out of the car. We get out of the car. They're doing Jaeger bombs with like strangers, whatever. And they're like, Britt, you got to try this because I love Red Bull. So they're like, you got to try it. It's so good. And I'm like, okay, I'll just have one. Like, I'll just try one. By the time we get in the game goes on for 4 hours. Like, I'll be sober by the time if I only have one. Well, I didn't just have one. I don't know how many I had, but I do know that when we went into the Phillies game, I had a rally tail over my face and I was like slumped in the seat, like dead to the world. And the whole stadium was spinning. And I looked at my girlfriend and I said, I'm going to puke. And she was like, let's go. We start running to the bathroom. I'm running. I don't know if I was running up or down the steps, but whatever direction I was running in, somebody with their child was running towards me, like coming up the steps with their child. And I projectile vomit, and she has to like shield her child from me. I don't know how I didn't get arrested that day. I really don't. But like my friend's sister had to come and like drive my car home. I get home, my dad, who's a police officer, is sitting in his recliner, and he's like, "Hey, how was the game?" I'm like, "Great. Who won?" The Phillies. Run up the steps, like trying not to be detected. And to this day, I couldn't tell you who won that game. I don't know. Thank God my dad isn't like an avid sports fan, because I would have got caught. But like just craziness from like a very young age, like stuff like that.
So you had a rally towel on your head, but you were not rallying.
No.
There was no rally in you.
I hadn't found Adderall yet, so I didn't know how to rally at that point.
I have a story like that, but I didn't throw up. I just spilled wine all over the lady in front of me.
Oh my God.
But
I
I remember passed out during a whole football game on my boyfriend's lap.
Wow. Well, I did that too. I got kicked out of the Lincoln Financial Field for being drunk in public at 19. So like that was 17. 19, I'm ejected, no longer allowed in NFL stadiums. My dad gets a phone call from the police. Like just always Shannon. Yeah, the night the day of the Super Bowl parade when the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2018, probably what was that, 5 months before I got sober. I went with my aunt and my cousin and fist fought my cousin in the middle of Broad Street, like a real classy, just always looking for. I was just always looking for trouble. Like I was just always in the mix of whatever was going on, just doing the most all the time for no reason. Just because it was because I was trying to mask whatever was going on inside. Like specifically at the Super Bowl parade, I had just ended a relationship of like 3 years, and I was in pain, and I got as drunk as I possibly could. And I tried to fight literally every human I came into contact with that day. And my cousin just happened to be an easy target. She's younger than me. I thought I could get away with it. Little did I know she was going to swing back, rightfully so. But she swung back and we start brawling. Her mom is screaming, like, "Get off my door." Like, it was just, I'm sure there's a video somewhere on the internet, like someone driving down Broad Street and witnessing that exchange. I'm sure there has to be somewhere. It was just chaos all the time.
Man, you liked fighting family members. That was
dude, I really did.
You were watching Bailey that day too.
I was watching my younger sister. And that's what the fight was even over. Like Bailey ran in front of me with my cousin, and I was like, "Hey, get back here." And my cousin was like, "You're doing a lot. Like, what are you doing?" And my reaction to her checking me was to just mug her face, like, and she swung. Like, rightfully so. I put my hands on her, you know what I mean? But I wasn't expecting that. I didn't really want to fight her. Now we laugh about it, but like they didn't talk to me for quite some time. It was not the best situation. But to be fair, my family was just who I drank with. You know what I mean? Like I was around them a lot. And so unfortunately, they got the shit end of the stick when it came to the behaviors that came out when I was drinking, and like going back to generational trauma, like that all started, you know what I mean, with my dad's dad. And that, you know what I mean? And it just comes, and like today I get to be the stop in that chain. Like I get to be the break, and like, thank God. Cause like, I don't want Billy to grow up to be, you know what I mean? Like I want better for him. And I'm sure my parents want it better for me. You know what I mean? Like each generation gets a little bit better, I think. If you find recovery. Right. If you find recovery. Right.
If not, it gets worse and
it gets worse. Yeah.
Because the drugs out there are getting stronger. Everything's getting worse. Everything's more expensive. There's more stealing. There's more criminal activity. There's social media and easier ways to get money, and lots of things are different, and it just gets worse. So I love what you said, where this is the end, and I'm so fortunate, being sober. My daughter has never seen me drunk, and she's 22.
Yeah.
She, and she has tried drinking, she's tried weed, she's tried this, and she doesn't like it. But she also, I made her introduce me when I was 4 years ago for a big meeting. She introduced me lead, and she's the exact opposite of me. She's so soft spoken, my sweet native, and but she got up and did it anyway. And she's been raised in AA, and she's been raised with my friends, so she knows, but I was raised in AA. I was raised with my mom,
So was I.
and I still wound up, drinking and drugging, and I still wound up using those same solutions. So I told you we have a lot in common. So
Yeah.
so you were 28 when you finally got
26.
26. Me too.
Yeah.
So what happened?
So the long and short of it is like that Super Bowl parade that I just talked about was kind of like the beginning of the end for me. I ended a relationship with an abusive man, and like it was kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like I was like free, right? Like he didn't really let me drink. He tried to control me smoking cigarettes. It was crazy. I would like smoke a cigarette and like have a toothbrush and Listerine and like deodorant and lotion and shit in my car so that I could smoke a cigarette while I was with this guy. Like it was crazy. Um, and so like when I left him, I was finally like, oh, I can do whatever I want kind of thing. And I just went fucking bananas. And, I left him in February. I got sober by June. So like you do the math. It wasn't very long. You know what I'm saying? And it got really, really bad. Like I had lost a good job. I was working with my mom actually. I had lost a good job for being late. I was collecting unemployment, but I was blowing my whole check from unemployment at the bar. And then I worked with my dad on the side because not only was my dad a police officer, but he also had a business. He was an exterminator. And so I would like work for him for like side money, and he would give me the company card. I would take the company card to the Mac machine. I would tap Mac, pull money out at the bar and get drunk on his money, thinking that he was never going to find out about it. And what was it, like 2 days before I got sober? We were going to my little sister's softball game. And I'll never forget, I thought it was so weird. He calls me and he's like, hey, make sure you bring the company card to Bailey's game. I'm getting new cards. And I was like, that's fucking weird. Like, okay, whatever. So I gave it to him. And then like the day after that, he calls me and he's like, can you meet me at my garage? And I'm like, sure. I meet him in his garage, and I could just tell like the energy was funky. And I was like, what is about to happen? And he looks at me and he goes, how much have you used the company card this month? And I said, I don't know. I went to Wawa a couple times, like, and he literally pulled out the bank statement and was like, yeah, bitch, try again. No, that's not what you did. And I was like, okay. And I just start bawling. Right. And at this point I had stolen from my middle sister. She had just graduated college. I stole one of the envelopes with money in it and then helped her look for it like any good drug addict does. And so she wasn't speaking to me, rightfully so. And I made my dad feel bad. I was like, Brianna's not talking to me. And I left this guy and blah, like just chaos. And in that chaos, I was with my now fiance, Dan. And the thing about Dan is we met him through AA. So my middle sister played Xbox with Dan, and he was getting loaded. He overdosed on Xbox one night, and my sister had to call 911 and save his life. And so when he got sober, he found my mom on Facebook and was like, will you chair my 1 year? And he stayed sober for like 3.5 years, started drinking. When I left my ex, Dan and I got together because he had always kind of had like a little bit of a crush on me. And we're drinking together, calling my mom at 4 a.m., blaring Kirk Franklin and telling her that like our lives are like, this is, we're doing so wonderful. She's like, you fucking psychopath.
I didn't say F word, but I said something bad, I'm sure.
She's like, what are you doing? We're like, what is it? You have a good day or whatever. Kirk Franklin. She's like, what is happening? And we're wasted,
Like, these two really think they're fooling me here. Like, what? Yeah. They look like two clowns.
It was a mess. But like, addiction kind of drove a wedge between Dan and I. So like, I left this guy in February. Dan and I get together. I leave Dan by the beginning of June. Like a week later, I'm in AA. And I'll never forget my friend Lynn's. Hopefully she watches this. She comes up to me at my first meeting at my home group. And she comes outside and she's like, hey, aren't you that girl that was on Dan's Snapchat this summer? And I was like, mortified. Because all these sober people saw me all like, oh my God. Oh, but now she's like, she was my first sponsor. She's one of my very good friends, but it was just so funny. Like, just, it always catches up, you know what I mean? And you never know who's watching. And like, I think the most important part of my story is that my mom was sober when I got sober. And so you kind of touched on it, John, with your daughter, knowing your friends. Like, I knew all my mom's friends. I knew I had a whole phone full of women in AA. Like, people don't get that. And I was very blessed. And, those women carried me through the first couple weeks of sobriety because I got sober on her couch. And I would call her or were you at work? Yeah. I would call her and be like, when am I going to sleep? When am I going to eat? I'm fucking bored. She'd be like, go to a meeting, call someone, go to a meeting, call someone. And I'd be like, this sucks, dude. Like, what is going on? And to be honest with you, when I got sober, I didn't truly want to be sober. You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up in AA, so I knew that like I wasn't paying my bills. Things were like, the consequences were starting to pile up. And I was like, I know what'll work. I'll go to AA and tell them that I need to go to rehab. And then everything will be fine. And like, I kind of knew that like, if I wanted to ever drink again, it would be like they were going to hold me accountable. But I was like, I'll worry about that later. Like, I'll just get them off my back. And I stayed sober. You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I do know how I did it. I just listened to people,
It's so strange because mom's drinking friends bought you drinks and got you drunk, and
Yeah.
sober friends brought you to meetings and got you sober. That's
Yeah.
that's a
Shows who your true friends really are.
Amen.
And I'm sure some of those kind of
Might be seeing
They have over the years. Yeah,
sure-
for sure.
I'm sure there's some crossover there as well. So, Patty, let me ask you now, during all of Britt's misadventures, how were you feeling? How were you dealing? I mean, I know personally, you probably gave her to God, but that's what we do.
Yeah. So at first it was, I experienced a ton of fear, and I didn't like it. But I knew because I had sat in so many meetings where parents had similar situations. And I knew the only thing that I could do to help her was to pray for her. I couldn't force her. I couldn't, because really, if her heart isn't in it, then I'm wasting my time and my energy. And that's what I started doing. I started just praying, asking God to take the fear, asking him to keep her safe during this time, and, bring her to the end quickly. And, as I'm praying this, now this is a whole process, right? It didn't happen overnight. But as I'm praying this, like things were happening and they weren't good things. Like I was getting more upset, more fearful, and all of this. And it wasn't until after Brittany came and asked for help that I realized that God was answering my prayer and he was bringing her to the end quickly so that she would surrender and ask for help.
Yeah.
And that's really what happened. And, it didn't happen that quickly as I'm saying it to you. And there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of phone calls. There was a lot of meetings. And, sometimes there was laughs. Sometimes there was anger. Like the day that she went to the parade with my younger daughter and beat up my goddaughter. I was just like, what is happening? Like, I wanted to lock her in a cage at that point. I'm like, you're responsible for your little sister. My sister-in-law's there. Like, oh, it was just, and I felt so bad because it's my daughter, right? And my sister-in-law and my niece and but all those things, if there's no consequences, I would have never gotten sober if I didn't have consequences. Right. Sure. So, all these things had to happen. And really, I'm fortunate that worse things didn't happen. She didn't get hurt. She didn't get charges. She didn't, so things could have been a lot worse. And along the line, there were some funny things, like you said, like peeing in my closet.
Oh,
Like
we gotta get to that story still. We gotta get to. All right, you know what? We're gonna stop everything, and you gotta tell us. Okay, so this is the story of the. Was it the anniversary party, or was it? Are these?
I don't know what
I'm
night.
not sure where she was that night. No, the
I don't know
anniversary
where it
was
was.
my first line of cocaine. My mom's birthday. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where I was. I was out at a bar and I would come home drunk. And one time I fell asleep in the hallway. I just did all kinds of crazy shit.
And people pee in weird spots when they're wasted.
To be
Like,
fair,
weird.
she has a ladder in her. She has a ladder in her closet, and I thought that I was sitting on it.
It doesn't look like a bathroom.
I thought
It's a ladder. Do you have a ladder in your bathroom?
Wait, what did you think the ladder was?
I thought it was a seat. Apparently, I don't know.
It was a metal ladder. Do you have a metal toilet?
Okay, so we're gonna back up. I want to hear that. We gotta hit this. Okay, so you're out at the bar and you come home. What time is it? It's midnight.
I don't know, probably 2 or 3 in the morning. It could have been 5 for all I know. I used to go to after hours a lot, so I don't know. But I came home, I passed out in my room. I got up to go to the bathroom, and this happened to me a lot where I would mistake one room for another. I did it when I fought Jess in Texas. I went to the bathroom in her room, actual bathroom though. But this time I happened to think that the closet was the bathroom. I don't know how I got there, or I have no recollection, obviously. I was blacked out.
Of course.
But I do remember, what I do remember is waking up in the closet because she started screaming at me. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Like bloody murder in the middle of the night. And I look up and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. In the closet and I'm taking a piss. I don't know what to tell you.
He was caught red-handed. There was nothing
Your
she
new
could say.
puppy. Your new puppy's gonna give you payback for that.
Oh, he got me back a little bit.
All right, so
He did.
at 5 in the morning, you're passed out in your room. You get up because you gotta go pee. You go through mom's door into the closet, and see, I'm imagining now.
She passed the bathroom.
I'm in the house right now that it happened in. So
she passed the bathroom.
this door behind me is our hallway door. Okay. So I walked down the hallway. I passed the bathroom on my way. Oh shit. I passed the bathroom on my way down the hallway, walked through her bathroom door or her bedroom door, and this is the closet right here. And I walked into the closet and I
Oh my god!
pulled my pants down and I peed on the floor in her closet. I don't know.
It woke you up.
No, Patty.
She has hardwood floor.
I'm telling you, it sounded like a fire hose. It was loud. I was like, "What is happening?" I thought she had a hose in my closet. I was like, Kevin! And my husband's like sound asleep. He didn't, I don't even know if he woke up. But I was like,
I don't
what
remember
is
even
happening
leaving
in
the
my
closet.
I didn't even know it was her at first. I'm like, what is that noise in my closet?
Oh my God.
I'm bed. Yes.
Yeah, so I put her through a
that
little
really
bit
happened.
of you know, some shit.
Really, the fear wasn't the pee in the closet or any of the what I worried about as a mom was her crashing the car,
Yeah.
hurting herself, overdosing, because I knew that she was depressed because of the whole breakup of the boyfriend. So there were so many things going on. And I know about addiction. So I know that you could just take, you could be under the influence and take a couple and boom, you're out. And she lived alone. So if she didn't wake up, nobody's there to Narcan or call 911 or so really, it was a total reliance on prayer and God at that point in my life. And, the prayers were answered. God answers all of our prayers, whether it's not always the way I want it to be.
Right.
But regardless, he's always there. Like I told you the story about the gas station, right? So no matter what happens in my life, I have a strong, like, praying for Brittany definitely grew my faith, right? And so many different other things have happened that have grown my faith. So my faith is nowhere where it was once before.
Yeah.
So I now know that no matter what happens, I may experience sadness, brokenness, happiness, joy. But I know that God's always with me. He's never going to leave me. And he's always going to provide whatever it is that I need, comfort or whatever. And, so in that, like all these experiences in my life and her sobriety, my sobriety have all helped me to become, I always say, help me to become who I am right now. Like I had to meet every single person along the way to be who I am today. So I'm grateful for the ones that gave me a hard time, the ones that helped me, the ones that there's all different experiences, and
I think
I'm just extremely grateful.
I think the most important thing you said though is that God doesn't always answer the prayers the way you think. Because when I first got sober, I thought like if I prayed for something, it was just gonna fucking fall out of the sky and like happen, right? And that's not real. A lot of times there has to be pain before there's beauty. And someone said to me, there's two things that were said to me when I first got sober. One came from this woman. And she said, I would pray for you, something bad would happen. I would pray for you, something bad would happen. I didn't know why until you got sober. And it was because God was breaking you down in order to build you back up. And that has stuck with me since the day I got sober. And then there's another one on the other side of pain is growth. And those two things have gotten me through so many hard times in sobriety because it's a reminder to me like, yeah, it might look like a shitstorm right now, but at some point you're going to look back on this moment and be like, oh, that's why. You know what I mean? And yeah, like it's not always rainbows and butterflies sober. It doesn't always look pretty. There's a lot of hard shit that happens. I mean, I had a very hard pregnancy with my son. We were told he wasn't going to make it. Like I spent my entire pregnancy thinking that we were going to lose him by 3 months old. Like they told me he had some crazy rare disease. He's fine. He's autistic, but he's fine. You know what I mean? And just through that process, I learned like a lot because I was in a lot of pain during that time being pregnant and thinking that I was going to lose my baby. Now I have a beautiful, healthy, amazing son, and all of that pain was put there to teach me to be empathetic to other women. Like it taught me something. And I won't get into it, but it taught me something. And it wasn't until years after that experience that I looked back and realized, oh, that's why. Because I had to learn from lived experience that pain has purpose. And that's, I think that's summed up in the name of your podcast, like never alone. You know what I mean? Like we all go through pain so that when the next person goes through it, we can be like, yep, Been there. It sucks right now, but it's going to get a whole lot better. Just hold on, you know? Mm.
You know, this has been so amazing today, Britt, Patty. I can't thank you enough because you know your honesty, your vulnerability is just that, and I hope people listen to this, and I hope people get the message of hope that we deliver. You know, you
Yeah.
used to deal dope, now we deal hope, and
Yes.
it's our past that becomes our best asset, and Patty, I'm telling you, everything that your story said, rings true for Krista and I, and I'm sure anybody who'll listen. And then Britt, everything you said rings true for Krista and I. You know, we all have this common bond,
Yeah.
and there is a solution, and we don't have to do this alone.
Yeah.
And that's the amazing part is that now we're all in this together, and you guys are so fortunate to have one another.
For sure.
I was very fortunate. My grandmother, like I said, she was 26 years sober, but she refused to go to meeting with me. We never went to a meeting together.
Wow.
But my first 2 months, I went to see her friends who all, had all this time. So,
Yeah.
and it was just a bunch of ladies, and their stories were so much different than mine. But I got hope that if they could do it, maybe I could do it. And your guys' testimony here today, and you're fun, and we're not a glum lot, and rule 62, we don't take ourselves so seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I think Patty, she was just praying because she couldn't do anything because Britt liked fighting family members, so she was,
I did.
I ain't getting in there.
I think Britt and we could have been real dangerous together in those days. And I feel like
Very
I
strong.
feel like I've known you all forever. And
Well, my dad was a professional boxer before they had me. And when I was young, he taught me how to box. And I mean,
I thought I was a boxer.
I can throw hands a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So I
did not think I was.
I kind of use that though in addiction as like a mask. You know what I mean? Like if someone pissed me off, like, yeah, I know how to throw a right hook, so I'll show you, you know? Not good, but it is what it is. I haven't fought in 8 years, so hopefully I won't need to or see a reason to. And yeah, listen, sometimes it comes out where I want, especially when it comes to my kid. You mess with my baby, it comes out a little bit, you know. But I haven't acted on it, so like progress, not perfection. You know what I'm saying? My mouth goes off a little bit, but the hands have been tucked for quite some time now. But yeah, I mean, life is just sober is just the better way, man. I mean, my mom kind of touched on it a little bit. Like, she has a foster daughter who's the same age as my son that they took in when I was pregnant with my son. And I was furious about it at the time. Like, I was like, how dare you? I'm about to have your first grandchild and you're bringing a child into the house? You're crazy. And now her and my son are best friends. We raise them together. Like they have sleepovers and like just like these things don't happen unless the healing happens. You know what I mean? And it's just I hope people do take a message of hope from it because for a long time I wasn't sure if my family would ever heal. Like my dad, I'll be 35 in October. My dad just apologized to me recently for like some of the behaviors when I was growing up. And like that's all I've ever wanted. You know what I mean? Like I know he's not a perfect human. I know he comes from a really messed up background that I've never talked about it publicly, but his mom murdered his dad because of abuse. Like he, in self-defense. And like he was there for that, and like he's a product of that environment, and all I ever wanted was an apology, accountability from him because I'm a human. I know that he's a product of what he was raised in, and he gave that to me recently, and like it's happened as like, what do they say, like the ripple effect, like you drop the rock in the pond and like everyone starts to heal.
So much hope. hearing that, I have
Yes.
my own issues with my family, and just this trip to Akron a couple of days ago, someone suggested to me I should go to Al-Anon, and
Yeah.
I didn't have that growing up. I didn't come from an alcoholic family, but things have changed through the years. So definitely gonna
Yeah.
dip into that. But you give so much hope. Your mom, your dad, just y'all's relationships, like that your dad can change after all this, like wants to heal and be better.
Yeah.
So much hope.
You can change it at any time. You know, all you have to do is surrender and take a suggestion. And that's how it starts. And eventually it just, you know what I mean? Like we make it complicated, but it really is so easy. It really is. You just have to surrender and you have a chance, you know?
That's amazing. What a message. Well, thank you, Britt. Thank you, Patty. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
This has been amazing, and you guys are amazing people, and I'm so grateful that you guys came on here and shared
Yes.
together. You know, it's one thing to be able to talk to somebody like by themselves, and you know we get our own thing, but to hear from each other the feelings that came along with the addiction, with all the craziness, you know, that's I think that I think this was really, really good, and
Really good.
I'm so grateful you guys came on. So
You guys are the best. Thank you.
thank you, and thank you for everyone who's watching and listening, and we'll see you next week.